Oh, hey, Matt, alcoholic again. Um, Congratulations to all the day counters and people celebrating anniversaries this month. That's hope, baby. That's what keeps me coming back. That's my favorite part of every night is coming to 5D and hearing all of the day counters and anniversaries. That's big motivation. That's big hope. So a little of my story. Guess I'll start from the beginning. Grew up in a pretty normal house. Parents seemingly loved each other. I had a sister. Grew up in a suburb of Springfield, Massachusetts. And everything was pretty cool. We went on vacations. We did normal family things. Good holidays and everything. Everything seemed really cool until, one day it just wasn't cool anymore. My parents started going into it to get a divorce. And around that same time is when I discovered alcohol and drugs. Seemingly perfect timing, perfect coincidence. And at the time, I didn't know it, but I would be using those things to escape, the world coming down around me. And, looking back on it, my parents getting a divorce was a beautiful thing. It was a great thing. It was what should have happened. But, as a kid, it messed me up a bit. I thought somebody loved somebody else and that was that. So it kind of, that's where my trust issues started to come in. That's where I started isolating myself a lot. Stopped playing sports in school, stopped doing a bunch of stuff and kind of just hid out until I was introduced to alcohol. I remember my first drink. I was 13 or 14 years old, and it was only a little bit. It was only as much as we could have stolen from one of our parents. It was a very small amount, but I remember the taste and I remember the feeling I got. And, I didn't get hammered. I didn't get really drunk at all, but, my nose got a little bit tingly. Things started to feel warm and I knew I wanted more. And from that moment on, I kind of just sought that feeling through through alcohol. And at first it was very, very hard to get because we were so young, but we started making, me and my friends would start making friends with older kids and start getting better at stealing alcohol from our parents. And it just became, a once a month thing into an every weekend thing. And there was never enough for the next party, the next get together. We had always drank everything. There was nothing left over. There was never anything to spare. And that continued for a bit until I got into high school and, alcohol and other substances became more readily available with meeting a whole bunch of new people from a new town. And yeah, it kind of started to, we planned everything around the weekend, saving up all of our lunch money so we can buy whatever we had to buy for the party on the weekend. And we spent the whole week talking about what we were going to do and then party all weekend and come back to school on Monday and talk about, the grand old time that we had. And it was just all the time, just repeating, just on repeat. By my senior year, that was becoming, maybe drinking during the week too. I don't think a single day passed in high school where I didn't show up to high school high. I had a theory, study high, take the test high, and get high scores. And somehow it worked. I did really good in high school. I don't know how it worked, but it worked. I don't recommend, but I got by. I did really well in high school until, like I said, my senior year when things started getting a little bit heavier for me. And I barely graduated. And the administration, the vice principal and principal and guidance counselors, they all asked me like, what's going on and this and that. And I I didn't have an honest answer for them because I didn't know the honest answer at the time. I was clearly in the beginning stages of my alcoholism and addiction, but because I wasn't aware of it, I would make things up or tell them what I thought was going on. And like I said earlier, my parents were going through a divorce, and through that divorce, my mother, who is an alcoholic, who I had never seen drink in my life up until the divorce, she relapsed, and that kind of took a toll on me too. And so, I told the vice principal, I was like, you know what, give my mom a call and ask her what's going on. So the vice principal calls my mom at like 8 o'clock in the morning. We're sitting in the office, and my mom answers the phone hammered, and starts screaming at the vice principal. And the vice principal just hangs up and looks at me. She's like, Matt, go home. Like, you don't got to come to school anymore. And instead of taking that time to, deal with things that I probably should have been dealing with, I looked at that as an open opportunity to party more and drink more during the day. And, you know, I would already be half in the bag by the time my friends would get out of school. And, oh yeah, guys, come over. Like, I've already got it going. And yeah, that continued till the end of high school. Still, you know, didn't think I had a problem or anything, even knowing that the alcoholism ran in my family. Like, that's definitely the one thing that runs in my family is alcoholism and addiction. Um, yeah, high school ended. I barely got by. Tried going to college and realized in college that they weren't really partying on my level. In high school, I had ended up making friends with people from my hometown that were, 25 to 30 years old. I was drinking with the pros already in high school. So I thought college was where you go to party, and nobody's on my level. Still not thinking I have a problem that, oh, maybe I'm not not drinking like how normal people drink, but just no, these people just don't know how to party. They don't know how to keep up. So I dropped out and went back home to where, the people knew how to party. Uh, I was working. I was, you know, doing everything that I thought needed to be done. Um, and the party just kept going. I I worked in a restaurant. And for those of you that have never worked in the restaurant industry, that is a great place to further your alcohol or drug addictions. It's a wild ride in the restaurant industry. It's very seldom that you walk into the back of the house and everybody's sober. It's and watching the older people in the restaurant I was in, like, they drink every day. They still came to work. They still had it. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be a chef. So I was like, I get a party every night. There's cute girls working the floor. Like, there's a bartender. Like, I've got everything I need right here at my workplace, like where partying was condoned. And it worked for me. I lived 5 minutes away, so it was an easy ride. The rush would pass, and the restaurant I was at was in a parking lot that had a liquor store across the way. So, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night would hit, and we would send somebody over to we called it the pharmacy, and get everything that we needed. And it would start off with like a 30 pack to split between the whole kitchen crew. But then, the 30 pack wasn't enough. So now one of us would go back over to get, something a little bit stronger. And I'm also getting a shift drink. And it didn't help that they were serving me a shift drink when I first got the job at 16 years old. But it was a party, you know, we all were just one big dysfunctional alcoholic family. And it was fun for that age. But it quickly caught up when I got my first DUI. And that was the moment that I started thinking like, hey, maybe cool it, maybe start watching what you're doing. And I quit drinking for about a month or two. And they sent me to a 16-week program for first DUI offenders. And before I was halfway through with that program, I had gotten my second DUI. And yeah, the teacher of that class was not very happy with me, but me and him became friends. And he asked me, he's like, well, what are we going to do about this, Matt? And I was like, you know, I think I'm gonna try AA. I'm gonna really kick this. And I did. I remained without a drink for 5 years. I went to AA, court ordered at first, and then continued to go for about a year after I didn't have to get that paper signed anymore. I continued to go for about a year, but I wasn't really in it. I started going less and less frequently. You know, I wasn't taking suggestions. I wasn't working the steps. I didn't have a sponsor. I show up to speaker meetings only, sit close by the door so I could sneak out right at the end. And sooner or later, it just stopped. I wasn't going to meetings at all. You know, I had it figured out. You know, I was able to keep the drink away on my own. So I thought. But the issue for me with quitting drinking but not working a program is I remained a complete miserable piece of crap. Nothing changed. I hated everyone. I hated myself. And it's like, you know, take the alcohol away from an alcoholic and without the program, and yeah, you're pretty miserable. It was very painful. And you know, I stuck around with the same group of people. I would still go out and party, even though I'm not drinking. Still getting into the same kind of situation, still being risky, still, you know, ending up places that I shouldn't be ending up. And you know, people, places, and things. You sooner or later, I ended up saying, like, you know what, let's try having one drink. And I had a drink, and that was it, one drink. It's like, okay, Matt, like you've got a pretty good hand on this. So a couple of weeks go by and I tried drinking again. I had one or two. I went home, nothing bad happened. Yeah, you know, every alcoholic dreamed like to have like a grasp on this thing. And that continued for a while until, you know, starting to get extremely drunk every once in a while, blacking out every once in a while again. And then, you know, other drugs getting introduced to it. By the end of like a year from that first drink that I took, by the end of that year, I was back to drinking all the time. And I kind of knew. I was like, okay, like, you know what they say in AA, like if you don't think you're an alcoholic, like go back out and try to manage your drinking again. That's what I did, and obviously completely unmanageable. I was drinking all day, every day. I was doing a whole lot of drugs. I was living completely recklessly. And I finally was able to admit that I was an alcoholic, and I checked myself into rehab. In rehab, I got real serious about AA. I got real serious about my sobriety. And after a month in there, I was like, you know what? I'm good to go. I get out, I relapse the same day. I got home. It was Thanksgiving Day. I didn't even go anywhere for Thanksgiving. I stayed at home, but there was alcohol in my apartment, and I got out. I saw it, and I chose to drink. There's no other excuse besides I'm an alcoholic that wasn't ready. I and I was right back where I started, like right back where I left off before I went into rehab. Um, and it only took a couple of months before I got my third DUI after that, and it was bad. I got into a really bad accident. One of those accidents where you see the car and you wonder where like the cemetery I got buried in. And it's walking away from that accident, having not hurt anybody else or walking away with just, a couple of broken ribs and a broken collarbone was the moment I realized there's a higher power that's watching over me. It was not luck. It was not coincidence. It was my higher power had a plan for me. And it wasn't like my story wasn't to end that night that I got that DUI. I woke up in the hospital. I went to court the next day thinking I was going to like beat this DUI. And I get to court. He's like, now put your hands behind your back. You're going to jail. So I go to jail. Another thing I don't recommend, very boring. And by the grace of God, I didn't spend a lot of time there. I was out in 1.5 months out on bail and ordered by the courts to remain sober once again. They gave me like a portable breathalyzer. And I do believe like that's the beginning of my sobriety this time around. As shitty as it sounds, like I was supposed to get that third DUI. I was supposed to have all this stuff happen to me. I was supposed to, detox in jail. I was supposed to go through all of this. Like that's what it took for me to finally have this realization, like, okay, something serious has to be done about this. And so I did, that's when me and my higher power started to have conversations every day. I was praying every day. I started praying multiple times a day. I started dabbling, and then this was right before the pandemic. So, AA, in-person AA meetings weren't around, but I started dabbling, going to meetings like once a week or so, knowing that I should be going to more, but it took a while for me to find like a meeting that I fell into and like loved. And I found 5D. This is the meeting that got me really into it. This is the meeting that, I got a sponsor. I started working the steps, like I'm actually working the program this time. It took me a couple of years to, start his program, but it's what my God has intended for me. And, I'm letting him take it. I'm letting him steer me. And I do believe like, as long as I'm living by his will and taking his guidance, like I am right where I'm supposed to be. It's like right now, like, I don't know. I never expected to, I go to AA meetings every day. And the great thing is if I don't make one in person, this meeting meets 7 nights a week and I can make this meeting all the time. I've been coming here for just about 2 years, regularly for about 8 months now. And I'm pretty quiet in this group. I rarely raise my hand. I got to do better about that. But I mean, like right now, it's way past my bedtime. I'm just sleepy in bed most of the time on this meeting. But my home group in person, I chair. I take on all sorts of service roles for that. And service, I do believe, is like a big part of my recovery. I'm currently the Facebook admin of this group. In July, I start as the outreach chair for this group. And it's like, holding these service positions keeps me in check. It keeps me busy and it keeps me part of the program. And that for me, I need to be part of the program. I need to be doing service, something, even if it's setting up chairs or taking down tables at the end of the meeting, even if it's making coffee. It's every little thing helps make the meetings work. And that's for me, a huge part of my recovery. Shaking hands and meeting newcomers at the door. Like I love going to newcomer meetings. It's give out my phone number, whether they call or not, I'm here. Like trying to, share the message of AA and just, it's working for me. So I just hope that it works for somebody else. It's been a wild ride, but like I said, I'm finally working the steps. And sometimes I still feel a little stuck working my program, but like, that's when I know I got to take a step back and like, okay, maybe you feel a little bit stuck, but that's like, remember, God has a plan for you. And maybe he needs you to relax a little bit. Maybe he needs you to take your time. Maybe you can go do something else for a minute. Because I tend to get wrapped up in AA. I tend to go overboard. I went to a double meeting right before this and I'm feeling AA'd out, but it doesn't stop me from coming. It doesn't stop me from being here to share with you guys. And yeah, it's working the steps and working the program and reading the book. I've come across this it teaches me how. And I heard this guy say it earlier today. How is like H is the honesty, O open-mindedness, and W willingness. And I need to have all three of those within this program for it to work for me. If I'm not honest with myself, I'm going nowhere. If I don't have an open mind, for me to have a higher power, that was like a far away thought back in the day. I would have never imagined younger me believing in a God and getting down on my knees and praying, but like that open-mindedness to form that perfect higher power for me in my head, and to know that he loves me and cares about me and wants me to succeed and be healthy and happy. And then the willingness to work the program, the willingness to put in the effort, the willingness to take suggestions, the willingness to show up. It's what it's all about for me. And I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but that's really all I got. I thank you so much. Everybody that's making this meeting work, thank you for your service. And yeah, I would like to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you.